Hey guys, welcome back to Proven Truth. I want to discuss some things that I've learned for the past few days and kind of collectively have been praying about and wanted to discuss with you guys on maybe some characteristics of God that you may not understand. And I know I certainly didn't, and it took time with God, me spending time with God to really get the answers. Because as I've been reading through Genesis all the way up to where I am, I made an earlier video telling y'all how the pieces start fitting together when you do that. When you read it consecutively and not just take little passages here or little passages there and listening to this sermon or that sermon, you actually sit down and you read the book in its context. You really understand what's going on. And we're not supposed to be sitting on the sidelines. We're not supposed to be, when we get saved. Let me start over. There are people when they get saved, there's different types and classes of people, all right? There's people when they get saved who don't want to jump in and get their feet wet. Some don't even want to go into the water and up to their knees to get wet. Some don't even want to go up to their waist, up to their neck. Some get to the neck and they don't want to get submerged. We're taught that we are supposed to mature in our faith, to go deeper into our faith. And some of you, as you go deeper and start uncovering the mysteries of God, because they're in there and it's out there, you start getting uncomfortable and you start getting afraid. When in reality, you're missing such a beautiful part of knowing our Creator and wisdom that's in that. And I've learned through reading this consecutively, and I hope that this can bless you, is I've learned that God is so wanting a relationship with us so badly. And not just any kind of relationship, an intimate relationship where it's you and him talking. He's that amazing. He's that big. He's bigger. Think of the biggest thing you can think of. Well, he's bigger than that. He is the creator of all, the creator of the universe. He created time. He created space. He created matter. And for the ones who don't believe in God, it breaks my heart. And honestly, I worry about your intelligence. I'm not being rude, and don't be upset, but I am. Because how can matter exist in space and then exist in time without all of that existing at the same time? Do you see what I'm saying? You can't have time without space and matter, and you can't have matter without space, and do you see how all of this, if you really get down to the nitty-gritty, all of this really fit together? So when we're talking about the characteristics of God, as I was reading through this, believe it or not, after Noah and all of that happened, after the repopulation of the earth, a lot of war and a lot of fighting happened between Joshua, King David, King Solomon. And it's interesting to know that while God is a loving God, God is also a just God, and he does not put up with evil. And it's real clear as you're reading through this that he does not negotiate with evil. And he does not expect and forbids his people to follow evil, associate with evil, and participate in evil, tolerate evil, negotiate with evil. He has laws and he has reasons to protect us, to keep us closer to him, to keep us pure, because he lives in a realm of purity. He's holy. He's the creator. He's got no spots or no blemishes. We do. It's not how he created us, but because of Adam and Eve and sin that was brought in and introduced, we now do. We do now have spots and blemishes. You weren't created that way. Sin made you that way. Okay, do you see where I'm going with this? So as you read through the Bible, you start reading at some of the orders that were given to his disciples. For instance, let's take Joshua. Joshua was a warrior. So was King David, so was King Saul. And they would get orders from the Lord to go annihilate the Canaanites, the Amorites, the Hezekites. And as you're reading through this and you're listening to God saying, annihilate everybody, every suckling, every woman, every child, every man, suckling's a baby, you start asking God, well, God, that's harsh. How is how are you any different than the terrorists? I mean, really, you start asking these questions once you're reading God's words to his followers. And the more time you spend with God, the more you get his answers and you realize why. Because sin had crept in. Satan and his demonic deities had made such a mess for the outside people who weren't God's people, or Noah's 3 sons, because that's who populated the earth, that they became so evil within their hearts, just like the terrorists, just like Islam, that there was no goodness, there was no purity. Like, for instance, us talking about, let's just say, radical Islam, the side of Islam that's evil, demonic, raping children, little girls and little boys, cutting people's heads off, burning them alive, drowning them alive, just pure evil, demonic things. Have no remorse for how evil and disgusting they can be. That's like us going up to them back in Joshua's day and trying to negotiate and trying to make peace. God let me know that when you're dealing with pure evil, because God sees the inner heart of somebody, you don't negotiate with them. You annihilate them. Everything. Even children and sucklings. Why? Because just like I said in my previous video, sin is a seed, and it evolves and it taints and it changes the DNA of a whole entire generation and civilization of people. And God sees the heart. So when God says to Joshua, for example, go annihilate the Canaanites, God has evaluated the hearts of those souls and has found no good, absolutely no good, not even a chance of discussing goodness with them, that they must be annihilated. Why? Because evil will spread like a cancer. Look look how it has spread in the religion of Islam. It is this cancer that's now a stage 4. They believe in really disgusting practices. They lure their people into Islam with the roots of the Old Testament, of the Book of Moses. Did you know that? With treat women with respect, no harming anybody, no killing. Actually, it preaches from the word. That's why a lot of Islamic followers say that their religion is a paralleled religion to the Bible. But the further you get into the Quran, into that religion, you start seeing the dark sides of it. And the more an Islamic person is a devout follower of that religion, the more dark they get. Because in the law of the Quran, the further you get into their book, whatever contradicts itself, say the further you're in, says it's okay to rape and molest and treat an infidel this way. And earlier on in the Quran it read, you shall not treat anybody this way. The law in the Quran says you follow the latter verse, overrides the earlier verse. So once someone is indoctrinated in and they start following, that's how they become radicalized, because they're starting to get more devout in their faith. And their book teaches them whatever comes later into the Quran and it contradicts something from the beginning, you take that latter verse. So therefore, the earlier verse goes away because you're now more a devout Muslim, and now you kill all infidels, you rape them, you burn them, they're disgusting. Now look at what we're talking about with the Bible and with the Creator, the real God. That's the satanic God, Islam and Allah. That's not God. The real God tells us, go in and annihilate everything and don't leave anything. Don't take anything from anybody. Don't harm anybody. Quick death. Just slew it all. Don't loot. Don't do anything. You go and you walk away. When that did not happen, there's a couple times where the Israelite army would go in and there would be a couple greedy, selfish, unpure, uncompassionate hearts that would go in and take slaves and take, they call it booty, take treasures, take silver, take gold, and they would hide it, and God would know, and God would go tell Joshua, and he would go tell his prophets, so-and-so has harbored and is hiding this or that. Their punishment is capital punishment, which means I'm a God of holiness, I'm a God of love and mercy, I'm not a God of torture. you were supposed to go in there and annihilate these people, and instead you've enslaved and you've stolen and you've done this. Now you're in trouble. Now you're going to be judged because I don't put up with that. So the God of the Bible and the God of Islam are totally different. We are not to harm another human being, but yet we are supposed to not negotiate with evil either. There's standards, and he gave us a book of standards. That's where we get our laws from. Where do you think all of this, you shall not kill, you shall not rape, you should not do this, you should not do that, from? Do you think it came from our own mind when we started this country? No. It came from the Creator. The Creator has given us a platform, a rule book to follow, and that's why we have the laws that we do. That's why they're not blurred, and when you blur the lines, you start getting into insanity, like we're seeing now. People wanting to be dogs, men wanting to be dress-up dolls, 40-year-old men wanting to be 6-year-old girls. It's disgusting. It's perverted. Why? Because they've stepped away from the book. Now, this is when God starts to judge. So I've learned in the book, going on now all the way into 2 Kings, that when you follow practices of things not of God, and it's easy to do, and it goes really, really deep on why the people were following things not of God when they knew God. It goes really deep. It really goes all the way back to Noah's time, when the angels were coming into the daughters of men, literally. And the offspring that was produced by angels coming into the daughters of men were these Nephilim giants, that inside they were purely demonic. Really, there was nothing good about them. That's why God flooded the earth. I told you guys that earlier in my earlier video. So we've already got these spirits here unleashed on this earth. And they really are the deities that a lot of these countries worship still to this day. And when God says don't worship anything other than me, he's talking about those deities, those idols that are leading you away from eternity, that are leading you away from the Lord. Those are fake. Lucifer in the Bible, God tells us, Lucifer disguises himself as light, as good, as fun, as exciting, as something pretty to look at. We think it's of God, but it's not, and that's why God keeps us very clear. And then he goes on to say, if you do not keep my commandments, if you turn away from me, if you worship other gods, if you do all these things that are an abomination to me, if you do not follow the rules of this book, number one, you're going to be hurt, but number two, my hands of protection, my hedge of protection is off of you, and you can be invaded. You will be slaves, you will be borrowers, you will be broke, your lands will not produce any fruit, you will not have any harvest. Do you see where this is going? That's why God judges. And I'm reading through, now I'm at the end of, let's see, so far I'm at chapter 23 in Kings. And King Hezekiah has passed away, and his son, Josiah. Is it Josiah? No, it's the Hezekiah's son's son. So Hezekiah dies. He's a good king. Manasseh starts to reign. He's a bad king. And Manasseh's son Josiah starts to reign, and he starts doing what's good in the eyes of the Lord again, and starts destroying all of these Baphomet temples and all these practices. That would be, for example, if Trump gets into the office and he says, all right, we're done with homosexual marriage, we're done with pedophilia, we're done with pornography, all of that stuff, we're done with that here. Kind of like what Putin did in Russia. And guess what? Russia's thriving now. Because Russia, I'm not going there. That's a rabbit hole. Anyway, it's funny how Russia's rising and we're falling, because Putin's outlawed pornography over there. You can't even talk about homosexuality and a unit of marriage in Russia like it's outlawed. Like they consider it abomination. Because guess what? Putin actually is declaring himself I think he's a Catholic, a sect of the Catholic religion. We're not going there. So, where was I? Josiah starts destroying all these Baphomet temples, all these Baal worshiping, disgusting practices that people were doing, like our abortions and our there was a article I read where people are literally marrying the sea. Like they're going down to the sea and like marrying the sea, and they're going in it and like doing perverse things in it, like you would on your wedding night, between a man and a woman. It's disgusting. Let's just pile it all onto the other stupid perversions that we're accepting. He's destroying all that, Josiah here in Israel. And then one of his prophets, while they're cleaning up the land, finds the book of the law of Moses. See, the book of the law of Moses hasn't been read since King Solomon. Was it Solomon or David? Hadn't been read since then, so the people did not have the word in their head. So Israel was just following everybody's lead, was following Baal worship, was following different idols because they did not know the word. They were grasping at this and grasping at that and listening to what this guy said and listening to what this fake prophet said and listening to what this magician said and listening to what this witchcraft doctor said. And they were following different ways. And then the book of the law was found. And Josiah then came to the Lord and said, Lord, I found the book of the law. Oh my word. This is why we are being cursed. This is why all this is happening. This is why. I see why you cursed us. You told us if we did X, Y, Z, your judgment would come upon the land, and it has. Please, Lord, what can I do? And he started reading the word back to the people. Judgment is coming. When is it coming? Nobody knows but God. We have done so many perverse things, and it continues to get worse with our leadership, turning this country into an absolute Sodom and Gomorrah type of environment, a Babylon, if you will. And in Revelation, it says the destruction of Babylon will be sudden. Well, all the descriptions of Babylon, in my opinion, Mystery Babylon is America. Only time will tell. Either way, if America is not Babylon, either way, it's bad. I mean, either way, this country does not exist in the end times. So where did we go? And it breaks my heart that we have a lot of young people who are dabbling into all of this junk, which is what it is, and being led astray because they don't know the truth. Because they feel like, well, how could the God of Christianity be right when there's so many religions, when they have no idea why there are so many religions? It tells us in the book why. It tells us what happened. It tells us that there is things we cannot see with our own eyes, and that God has given us a lot of information, but he's also withheld a lot of information. There's a couple books that have not been put into the Bible in the canon, called the Book of Enoch and the Book of Jasher, that are actually referenced in the Bible. That when you go back and read those two books, it opens up a massive understanding of what is going on and why there are so many people astray and why there are so many religions after Christ and that were before Christ. It's amazing. And why are they safe to read? Because they are the only two books that are referenced and talked about by Paul and by other prophets in this Bible. They were texts that were actually read during the time of Christ. They were books that Book of Enoch and was way back in Noah's time, the Book of Jasher. They're cited here in the Bible. If they're cited, if it comes from the Bible, if it's cited in the Bible, you know it's safe. If it's not cited in the Bible, like the Book of Thomas, I think there's like a book of like the 12 apostles or something that people are stay away from that stuff. If it's not written in the Bible, if the Bible doesn't cite it, then it's not safe. There's a lot more. And I'm going to start doing a study on the giants. And to be honest with you, I think some of y'all have noticed, I started to do a Bible study and time together with the book of Revelation. I got to part 3, and to be honest with you guys, I'm terrified to continue. Because that is the only book that's cursed. At the end of the book of Revelation, it says, whoever adds to or takes away from will be cursed. And I want to make sure I absolutely, 100% without a doubt get it right, because I don't want to lead anybody astray and make people think opposite of what God is trying to tell us. So I am going to finish that. It's going to take me more time to spend with the Lord. I know that I got parts 1, 2, and 3 right. I do. I spent a lot of time on those. But after that, it starts to get really, really deep, and I want to make sure I get it right. So have patience with me on that. In the meantime, I would love to start studying the giants and Nephilim. It's an awesome topic. I'll figure out a way to do that. And hope this blessed somebody, and you guys have a great day. Bye.